What's up, everybody? This is your favorite sociologist and the owner of the OWN Project. We are doing our first video of the year. We are talking about structural functionalism. Now, structural functionalism is not just a sociological thing. It is an everybody thing. It is a thing that we need to use in order to, really have some type of critical analysis and critique when we see things. So, structural functionalism it is a sociological paradigm. It is a perspective. All social systems, a social organization, there is a structure and there is a function. And that everything in society has its place. And it has to, especially when you're talking about people as social actors, they have to play their part in order to make sure that the needs of society is always being met. So when you hear the phrase, no part is greater than the whole, that's a structural functionalist perspective. That's a way of people saying, listen, the organization or the organism needs to run. And if you're not doing your part to make sure that society is functioning in the best way possible, then you have become a dysfunction in society. So let's say we're talking about gender. And gender is a social construct, which we'll talk about that later. But gender is this thing that we use to categorize people. In particular, we use it to categorize people into two groups. You got males, you have females. Males at birth are assigned the label male because they have a penis and testicles. And a female is assigned the label female at birth because she has a vagina and presumably a uterus and ovaries. In structural functionalism, these two categories are representative of a binary. They are in opposition to one another. They are seen as complements and supplements. They're supposed to fit within this puzzle because the male has a role of being the provider, the protector, the physically strong one. The female has the role or the function of being the nurturer, the rearer, the domestic, the child bearer, the subservient, docile partner that does what she needs to do in order to serve the function of the male. When they both come together, they create what we call a nuclear relationship or a nuclear family, and they then reproduce, which is the function of sex in a structural functionalist society. Your job is to get with a female, to reproduce with her, and then create children who then continue the legacy that you've given them. They then continue with making sure that they are able to reproduce the ideologies in society, that they are able to reproduce the work that you're doing, which solidifies your part in society. That makes sense? The other thing about structural functionalism is the key words are conformity, organization. Structural functionalists believe that society is put together like an organism, and they liken it to the human body a lot of times. So let's say, we'll use another analogy of, let's say, cancer. And so the body has cancer. And so an individual who has breast cancer has to do a couple of things. One is they have to surgically remove the infected tissue, like immediately, because it is a dysfunction to the whole overall functioning of the body as a system. That would be the same way that we would look at people in society that we used to call cancerous, or, the undesirables, the dysfunctionals. Like, these are the people who do not serve society, and they do not do anything that ensures the stability and the function and the success of society. And so we would call these people cancerous, and then we would then remove them, much like we would remove cancerous tissue from the body. So I'll give you another example about structural functionalism: sexuality. So in order for sexual orientation to function in society, they have to be complementary, which means a heterosexual relationship. The male is attracted to the female is attracted to a male, they get together, they have sex, they reproduce. They reproduce. When you have same-sex attracted individuals, so men who are attracted to men, women who are attracted to women, they don't fit in society the way that society needs them to fit, because it's always about the reproduction of a labor force. We need more workers, right? And a man and a man and a woman cannot reproduce us a labor force. So therefore, we demonize it, we criminalize it, we ostracize it, we alienate it, and we treat homosexuality as if it is a disgrace, and we label it a dysfunction in society because in a homosexual relationship, there is no reproduction of children. However, during the Obama administration, luckily, there was change in legislation that allows same-sex couples to then adopt. So now you have this nuclear adjacent family that's emerging in America as far as visibility. And so now you can still, the families are able to instill these ideologies and values and morals into the children that they've adopted, and still able to reproduce a labor force that way. You're talking about transgendered people, because the awareness and visibility around transness is now happening because society needs to figure out, how do we make them functioning? As long as we can't figure out their function, we're always going to treat them as a dysfunction. So we have to figure out, how can we make a trans couple or a trans person a functioning person within society? Another important thing that's about structural functionalism is structural functionalists do not believe that inequality exists. They believe that society is perfect, is infallible, it is all-knowing. It provides everything that the individual needs in order to be a successful and a contributing member of society. And so when you're talking about stratification, which we'll talk about in the next video, and conflict theory, it's you should be able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, we're giving you everything that you need. Woman, you do not need to worry about going out of the house and thinking on your own. We've given you a man to do that for you. Gay, lesbian couple, we don't need you to be worrying about how you're going to reproduce the labor force, because now we're providing you with that as well. And if you're poor in America, the reason why you're poor in America is because you haven't pulled yourself up by your bootstraps. You haven't used the tools that you need. You can't use race as an excuse. You can't use gender as an excuse. You can't use ability as an excuse, because you are being provided free education. Obama is successful. Tyler Perry is successful. Oprah Winfrey is successful. We've now given lesbian and gay couples the right to marry and reproduce in multiple ways. So there's something wrong with you. That would be a structural functionalist argument when it comes to poverty and being poor and quote unquote not being successful at the American dream. So after this lecture, I hope that you are feeling better than good, better than most, and maybe even better than that. I am your favorite sociologist and the owner of the OWN Project, and I will talk to you again soon.